Hi, Doron. Welcome to the Qualitalks podcast. It's great to have you here, and I want to talk to you today about the eQMS, the electronical quality management systems.
Hi, Jan. Thank you for having me. I'm following your podcast, and it seems that there's a lot of interesting knowledge sharing and opinions. So it's a pleasure to be here today.
Yeah,
Uh,
thank you very much. I'm really happy to hear that you followed it. Would you like to give a bit a background about yourself, about what you do, what your company does?
yeah, so my name is Doron Sitbon, and I'm the founder and CEO of Dot Compliance. Dot Compliance is a SaaS application, software as a service, that deals with management of quality and compliance and regulatory aspects of life sciences companies, pharmaceutical, medical device, biotech. We try to implement processes in a way that even employees in manufacturing in other parts of the operations can use the application and be part of a greater process that makes sure that all quality aspects are addressed in the right way. So, for instance, if you work next to a machine and you need to be trained on that operation, you need to understand exactly what is the product that you are manufacturing right now, and to be able to retrieve the valuable information and enter the information, and see the information coming from sensors around you. For instance, information coming from control systems. So getting all of that into a single view, a single process that allow organizations to be productive, efficient, and follow all of the applicable quality standards that they need to do, because that's what's keeping the business running. It's a necessity.
So I found that the digitalization is very important, and every company should strive for it. So, what problems companies uh, to avoid to fix when they come to you for your services?
So there's several types of situations where we come to help. So the first one is a manufacturing organization that uses a combination of either legacy systems that are not as convenient, or deal with the different business requirements of today's, like having a lot of data integrated, and having the right user experience, working on mobile, things like that. So these are like organizations that want to move to the next level of applications. That's one group of companies that we work with. The other group is early stage companies. So if you want to initiate or you are in early development stages of developing a new pharmaceutical drug, then this is something that you really should consider to build the fundamentals of your company on a digital formats. That everything that you capture is going to be tracked in the right way. If you think about getting a new product to the market, a pharmaceutical product, it used to be almost $0.8 billion 15 years ago. And these days, if you look at the overall volume of activity, the cost could reach to 2.5, 2.6 billion to get a new product from early R&D stages to market. And if you think about the differences, why in 15 years the cost was so increased, it's all about data. It's all about the confidence level that regulators would like to have. For instance, having more evidence, more clinical information, more assurance about the safety of the product. And what we try as a company is to make sure that those innovating life-saving products will reach the market faster, and in a way that would make it easier for the companies and for the later on for the patients and consumers to have those technology available to them. So taking those processes and trying to making sure that it's easy to capture the information, and
Yeah.
that even in R&D stages, all of the data that will later on support the submission or support the factual rock base that the regulator would expect to find to have it available
Yeah.
from day one.
Yeah, so it's really important for companies that start and they are also in the R&D phases and they just or probably start the production. And I find that still many companies don't take that step towards a complete digital transformation. And what stops those companies, in your point of view?
So I think digital transformation is something that happens to everybody. So my son this year is turning 18, and like his generation, everybody are they use their mobile phone. They everything is in the tip of their fingers, and it's happening to us whether we like it or not. We all become creatures of digital habits. And this is where employers or pharmaceutical companies or other companies, employees, a way to be productive. In the same, if you like to buy on Amazon or if you using Facebook or Twitter and you need to have the same type of digital feeling about the information that you have with those tools in your work environment, because that will make you productive and that will make you more happy about the processes that you run. However, on the other side, it's definitely a problem because you need to follow very strict validation rules. You need to make sure that data is kept with full data integrity and there's change of custody when data is moving from one side to another, and you need to have structured workflows and evidence. So this is really, you'd like to do the transformation on one hand, but on the other hand you have a lot of weight on your shoulders where you need to have the evidence and the validation documentation. So this is really where the next generation QMS solution like dot compliance come in place. What we are doing is really giving the feeling of the modern QMS, but still removing some of the heavy lifting because our solution is ready to use. So you can start using it. And if you would like to get the full documentation and the evidence and the testing and all of that, it's available, and it's something that really try to deal with the complexity but still give users a modern experience of working with application.
So I think you hit the right nerve here. So it's basically that many companies are afraid of change and the difficulties that they bring with so much validation and so much documentation, and they're afraid that it won't work together in a harmonized way in the company. And of course, every company that produces especially products for so many years in the same way, they're a bit reluctant to move to new systems and to do the change and to move to a digitalized system. But I believe personally that there is a lot of advantages. And why do you think that the companies must take the step and find themselves a good electronic quality system?
So first, I think that they are concerned for a reason. This is really important. This is critical, mission critical processes. So you need to be really careful because that's the safety of your patient. So I wouldn't say that this is exaggerating. To do the digital transformation in a safe and sound way, it's a challenge, and you need to select the right partner to do something like that. And this is why this is something that you need to have a strategy, how you harmonize your processes, how you connect all of the links. You have the manufacturing systems and the ERPs of the world that contain really factual information about your transactions, your inventory, the components that you issue for a specific batch. On the other side, you have patients that have data generated by patients. So, for instance, if you are a combination product that includes pharmaceutical ingredient but also a medical device, and maybe the medical device is now connected and sending back information to the vendor server, it becomes very complex, and you need to be really careful and have patient safety as priority number one. But again, the merits of doing this, of going through this transformation, are great. It could save, I would say, anywhere between 20 to 30% of your operating costs in terms of data management, which is a big portion. It could speed up your processes, and the speed of change, which is another term that I really like to use. The time that it takes you to, and anyone that have been in a manufacturing environment, and you think about a change control or engineering change control, this is like something that everybody understand, that it's a complex activity, that it takes a lot of time, and it goes and it changes hands between different people within the organization. And the idea is to find the linkage there, and getting everybody in the company working together and collaborating, and then you get tremendous savings, and you speed up your processes, and you give the employees and your partners and your distributors single source of truth that is updated, and that gives everybody the information they need when they need it. So in the end of the day, it's a necessity, but you need to be really careful in making sure that you make very steps that you control and that you understand, and that you follow all of the required processes and validation that is required.
From my experience, so I worked with both automatic systems, digitalized system, QMS, and also in manual paper ways.
We all
And
did.
sorry,
That's
we
life.
all did.
We all did.
Yeah. So especially the generation that work in the company 20, 30 years, for sure. I had the luck also to come to companies to work. I mostly work in really big companies that already had established QMS and electronic systems, but it wasn't um, overall. So so they had limbs, but you still had to do something manually. And in another company, you had automatic change control, but still. Manual supplier qualification, and then in another company everything was still completely manual change control, risk analysis, uh, everything. So then you understand the differences and how much manpower it saves you, compliance manpower problems. So I
Yeah.
mostly can speak from the quality assurance department, and we have to work with a lot of paper and with a lot of signatures and a lot of information. And when it
Let's say
is
we had
completely
to work
digital,
with a lot of paper.
yeah,
Let's optimistically look at the future.
yeah.
There's
So
definitely a lot of
because I'm
transactions.
talking because I know that there are many companies that still work with a lot of paper, and they probably, if they're used to it, they don't understand how pink and great the world is when you don't have to work with paper. So the world is amazing, and as you said, um, the efficiency is so great. So I'm just thinking about the time. For example, that I think the one of the most complicated thing working with paper is the signature, because you have some documentation and you need 5 people to sign them. It takes
Yeah,
you
so there's a lot of
so
saving
long.
there, definitely.
It takes you maybe days, maybe weeks to sign one document. If you're lucky not to lose it, yeah, during during
Well,
this
um,
round.
I think there's a lot of organizations that develop, an amazing competence in managing all of their quality in paper, and this is like very disciplined and very organized, and this is I admire that. But there's definitely a way to really streamline the quality. So altogether, so if in the past you had islands of solutions,
Mhm.
solution for documents which are disconnected from solution to change control, and maybe disconnected from risk management, and maybe disconnected from your electronic batch record or batch record, and it's all islands or isolated areas or silos within the organization. So I think that the next generation of quality management system solution should think about a much more harmonized view of things. So it becomes a game of platforms. So you would choose a platform, and then within that platform, you're going to realize all of the processes that you're interested in.
Mhm.
And there's the bedrock is about document control, training, and core quality processes like change control, deviation, investigation, risk management. And on top of that, you will add more and more processes that are specific. And I think going towards an harmonized solution, you need to build a strategy, and you need to find a solution and a trusted partner that can walk with you throughout this roadmap. And this is one of the most interesting things in my work, in my day-to-day work, is meeting with clients, executives, and working on the roadmap, where you are right now, and where you want to be in a year from now, or where you want to be in 5 years from now. And it's really depending on the vision that they have for their own companies or for their own business. And if, for instance, a company is working towards personalized medicine or engagement with patients, that will affect their approach, their roadmap. And it's really, the environment is changing. So if, for instance, 10 years ago, you would find on a typical pharmaceutical manufacturing line, you'll find maybe hundreds of data points. I think that in 10 years, it will go to, millions of data points, and be able to analyze that information and drive insights from this data. That's a huge transformation. So when you work on paper, the quality team is pushing the papers between the different people. So in order to complete a change control, you need to get everybody signing. As you said before, it's really you have to push the process until it's completed. When you move to structured electronic records, the role of the QA now becomes like a checkpoint. You are a gatekeeper now. You look at the
Yeah.
processes. Most of the processes should become self-service. So if an engineer would like to initiate a change control or change request, they should be able to do it themselves. But now you as QA, you're in as a gatekeeper at a specific point, and you can monitor that decision and making sure that everything goes, within the standards that you define, and that you have a broader vision or impact analysis, and you can address other aspects that maybe the initiator didn't see. When you move to the next step, which I believe is big data compliance, or there would be so much information, structured and unstructured, that you need to take into account, and then QA will become more like a cyber analyst, and you see those science fiction movies where you have a team of talented people sitting in a operation center and looking at all of the data coming from different sources, and analyze them, and give instructions, or make a decision, or running actions, corrective action items, or preventive. So think about it in the future. That would be the life of a quality manager. You would need to analyze a lot of raw information, and make decisions based on the human judgment and your professional expertise. So, and it would take time. I mean, people right now are pushing the paper sometimes and moving to structured electronics, but in 10 years from now, that will change. It has to change, because the volume of data that we are receiving from different areas is overwhelming. And
Yeah.
you have to have new process, new ways, new tools, new methodologies to deal with this wealth of information.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you completely, because right now all the regulations in all the countries are pushing towards risk-based approaches. And when we're talking about risk-based approaches, it means that we also need to look always at a trend analysis, and we need to collect information from all over and to look at it as a bulk. Also, when you do the root cause analysis, when you have all the information before you in one system, when you have the change control and the deviations and the kappas and everything in one system, it when you see the graphs when you can pull the statistics from it, when you have some
Yeah.
AI maybe that
Your annual product review should be generated almost automatically if you
automatically,
define
yeah.
those criteria in advance.
Yeah, and then and so you can, for example, when you're doing annual reviews, also from suppliers, you don't have to sit and review each supplier. It should be a click of a button, and you should have all the information, which tells you which supplier had failed in your criterias and had the most deviations and which were critical and so on and so on, and maybe give you some alerts. Okay, you should maybe it's time you should change the supplier. You should
Yeah,
just
and
have
it's
some
even more
light
than
that
that.
helps you with the decision.
I think that the next generation of working with
Mhm.
suppliers will sort of blur the boundaries between suppliers and the manufacturers and distributors, because think about it, there are so many innovative pharmaceutical companies that would come to contracted manufacturing to start with. So
Mhm.
most of their manufacturing assets will be contracted. And this is I see that with a lot of early stage companies, and even companies that are more established, they still decide to outsource when it comes to specific capabilities that they would like to maybe focus or use sourcing to because of their specific product focus. So in real life, pharmaceutical companies have a lot of their assets, a lot of their risks are actually within the supply chain. And this will grow and grow and grow as we move towards virtual manufacturing, where you own the license for that pharmaceutical product, and you have a supply chain that deliver that, whether it's the API, and this API will go to formulation and maybe packaging, and it all goes, and you will just do the commercial part maybe, and this means that a lot of really critical activities are done by your suppliers or your supply chain partners, and I think it will elevate the relationship between CMOs, contracted manufacturer organization, and their clients. And in order to even enable those kind of relationship, the next generation of quality management systems should allow everybody to collaborate and share the relevant information, yet having all of the constraints and the security restrictions that you would expect in terms of when you communicate and share information between organization. But all of that should be seamless, and that's why in our product, we by design we added suppliers as active players in each process. So you can do a kappa with a supplier, but you can do a change control or risk assessment, and you can collaborate with the supplier or partner. And it's just a matter, sometimes it doesn't really matter who pays your salary. In the end of the day, you are part of specific supply chain or manufacturing change for a specific product,
Mhm.
and you have to be committed to the quality of that.
Yeah. So it's a partnership in the end, and I think it's great if the suppliers would really collaborate, because I know. So I worked in also in supplier management. So I know when you have deviations, it's quite difficult and it takes time to get the feedback. You go through the procurement usually, and until you get the information why you put a deviation, and then you ask for a reply. But if there would be some harmonized solution that you can in one system work together, it probably would be more of a partnership and much easier. And again, the time, yeah, less
Yeah, I
time
mean,
consuming.
yeah, and again, yeah, you have to, things are becoming faster,
Yeah.
and the expectation. I mean, think about it. 20 years ago, when you try to set a meeting. You would schedule something, maybe send an email. Now, people would just, instant message each other and say, "Are
Yeah.
you available for
Mm.
20
Yeah.
minutes Zoom right now?" And they'll just
Sure.
do it
Yeah.
instantly to
And I think,
communicate. And the
it
same
should
thing will
move the
happen.
same. It should move the same also in the pharma, and I think the pharma is still a bit behind, and I think it's because the validation concerns, because the systems are so established, and it's not that easy to change it, and you need a lot of motivation to push you to do it, and maybe there are not enough solutions that are good enough for all the effort.
I think that the mixture of technical capabilities and again, from a regulatory and risk-based approach to having the right proficiency to make sure that you deliver those solutions together, meaning that you're advanced in terms of feature and functionalities and processes, but on the other end, you have to keep data integrity, validation, and information security aspects. This is crucial. I mean, and this is why I think that pharmaceutical companies sometimes, if you look at a CIO, chief information officer working for a pharmaceutical company, and he or she would look on their peers, they would see, on high tech companies, they would be a little bit jealous because, when you work with technology
Yeah.
companies, they can do so much things and work on an agile mode
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
such an easier way. But when you are constrained
Mm.
to the pharmaceutical regulations, then you're it's a very frustrating experience, by the way.
Yes.
I mean, and part of the next generation QMS should really work on improving this experience, and by providing things that are, you know very easy to use on one hand and very quick to deploy,
Mhm.
but still with all of the safeguard that you expect in that industry.
Yeah. So maybe it would be great if the QMS systems would already be aligned automatically and update themselves with the regulations.
That's what
So
we deliver on a regular basis. So
so
each time
that's
that there's a new regulatory
mhm.
requirement, we add that functionality and we provide the proper documentation. And it's crucial because
Mhm.
you want to remove this weight from the technology team and the regulatory team, because that's standard. That applies to everybody. You have your special processes. As a pharmaceutical companies, you have proficiencies in manufacturing pharmaceutical products, medicines, and that's your proficiency. And sometimes you're forced to do a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to regulation and come to infrastructure and IT and all of that. And you really want to allow the business to focus on the business. And this is where technology partners like Dot Compliance are coming in place. Because what we are trying to do is to deliver, to take the common things that are, you know, and everybody likes to think that they are special, and they are special. However, in some aspects, when it comes to regulated information management, there are some similarities that allow us to provide ready for use applications. And ready for use, that means that within a very short period of time, days, you can go live with a QMS system that meets the vast majority of the requirements that are common. And this is really the magic, how to build a system that can accommodate a larger percent of the business requirement that you would typically find in our industry. So this is I would say, probably part of the next generation of
Mhm.
quality management system is the ready to use
Yeah.
approach. And it's complicated because ready to use means that the application is ready for use, but also that you as a company, that you are ready to use it the way it is. So it's ready to use twice. You have to be ready. And
Yeah.
you have to be able to accept changes to your processes. And
Mhm.
this is where the parts of change management and change of perceptions could take should take place.
Yeah.
And it's really up to to find the digital transformation evangelist on the other side, somebody, a partner from the company that sees the vision and understand where he wants to take their own company and what it means to be there and what it means to do this transformation. And then we, as a technology partner, we can support those evangelists. We can give them the ammunition to be able to fuel this transformation within their organization. And it's a real hard job, and it requires terrific, talented people.
Mhm.
And we are privileged to work with some of those guys. So that's really
Mhm.
that's one of the treats or the pleasures of working in our industry.
Yeah. So I think we convince the people that they really should uh, go to a full scale digital transformation, hopefully. So
Slowly, and then with all of
slowly,
the
and
precautions. Yeah.
they should think, and they should assess their systems and see and evaluate how such a system would help them. But what types of systems are there? For so probably there is not one system. There are many suppliers. There are many um, uh, possible partners. So, what
Yes.
types of
So
QMS are
yeah.
there, and which company, what fits which company?
Yeah. So there's several segmentations that goes when you need to choose your technology partner. You need to look at several options. So there are some companies that are their logistic systems or ERP and financial systems also provide quality management solutions. Sometimes because those company deals with huge complex challenges on financial
Mhm.
logistics and other aspects of the supply chain, and they sometimes quality is secondary in terms of their product focus and the innovation. So it could be easier sometimes to take your ERP vendor solution for quality management, but sometimes it's hard to deploy because it's not always easy to use. It's not always mobile. It's not always integrated with external parties. So the first group is solutions provided by traditional ERP systems, and they have the advantage of being integrated. However, they come typically with very heavy lifting work, especially on the validation and regulatory side, because most ERP systems are sold to clients from fashion retailers to the pharmaceutical, but also other businesses that are not related to the pharmaceutical industry. So if it's a generic ERP system, not always they will have all of the key points that you will need in order to have a smooth deployment. And then you start to do gap assessments. So, okay, let's customize this and let's customize that. And let's add they don't have it exactly, but maybe close enough, maybe we can use. And then you start to get to very complex and costly and long deployments. So that's a block of, ERP systems. Maybe there is a good fit, and you should always look at your existing tools before you shop for additional tools like dot compliance. But basically, that's something that happens. It exists, and you need to see if that fits your needs or not. What is the gap there, from a economic perspective, from time to market, from usability, and from ability to support future requirements. And it really depends. If your business is innovative and you see new business use cases, then you need to have more focus on quality. The other type of vendors are traditional quality management software solutions, and they are definitely, they have the industry focus, but sometimes they lack the platform. Sometimes their user interface is outdated. Sometimes the heavy lifting of modernizing their application is not commercially sound for them. So you kind of get into a situation where you have some outdated software, and that each and every time that you need to update and add new features, you go into a very complex processes of upgrades and revalidation and all of that. And you need to have the right infrastructure in house, like server rooms and disaster recovery inside, and DBAs and all of those other bad words that technology specialists will drop on you each time when you want to deploy a new system. So it's really the question again about how agile you are, how you adapt to the changing business requirements, and how fast you can deploy. So those traditional quality management solutions are typically focusing on specific areas. It could be, quality management processes. It could be document control. It could be, other parts, maintenance management, or electronic batch records, or um, CTMS, or EHS, or other parts of the overall solution. But then again, you move to the next type of players, and I call them modern platform players. So you typically find solutions that are not developed from scratch, that leverage a technology, an existing technology. So all of the housekeeping is done with a trusted technology, and there's several trusted platform vendors in the industry. If you go to really large enterprise solutions, you'll find a few of those. But then you need to leverage that platform in a compliant way and find and deal with the different processes one by one. And then it's like, think about a Lego where you have a lot of cubes that you need to connect, and you need to build your own house, small house, from the Lego blocks. You need to make sure that you connect the right Legos blocks in the right place, and that you keep it in the right way. But in general, you want to use Lego blocks. You don't want to do everything yourself. You want to have some pre-configured or platform that you can use. And then those players that come with a platform background, or with a support of a platform, can really address really large number of business needs, because most of the heavy lifting is done by the platform. Now, it allows you to focus on the processes and the interaction between processes. And that's why I think that you will find some modern and non-proprietary, so to say, technologies that leverage common industry standards, and then find the partners that understands the industry and that work out in terms of not just providing a solution, but providing the overall envelope for that solution. And this is where you want to have a partner that supports you through audits. And this is something that our subject matter experts could, when a client is telling us, oh, next week I have an FDA audit, so okay, we will sign a subject matter expert that will exactly know how to answer and how to defend every line in the validation plan that we provide with our product. You need to have a partner, a technology partner that understands the processes, that can do process engineering, that will tell you, okay, I see that your process works this way, but we can, tie those two pieces together, and then, you get a greater value by understanding the type of processes that you have in your organization. And we try to bring as many talents as we can from the industry, working for large corporations, but also small innovative companies, and try to take that practical knowledge into the process engineering. And that's really the interesting part, where you have the building blocks now, but you need to structure the process. And it's also about how easy it is to do business with. You need to be flexible, you need to be responsive, and think about all of the problems and the challenges you know from the point of view of the client. And this is what we try to do. as well. And this is so you have different types of, to summarize the long sentence or the long story, you have traditional ERP systems. You have a traditional QMS where there's a lot of heavy lifting and customization, and you have modern cloud solutions that leverage an existing platform and that can tailor specific processes when needed, but also provide you a ready-to-use solution when the requirements or the functionality is standard and needed by vast players in the industry. And there's no one good answer. It could be right for one and wrong for the other. And it's always about, also the connection between people and
Mhm.
companies. And you need to make sure
Mhm.
that the person that is working with you is somebody that you can trust.
Mhm. Do you
And
think that
that's
there
all.
is one solution, for example, that is better for smaller companies and another for bigger companies? What do they need to uh, take in consideration when they do the choice?
So I think even within dot compliance, what we did, we separated our business into small, medium companies and enterprise business. When it comes to small, medium, they would like to have rich functionality, but time and costs are really important, and you need to really have a cost effective. So the ready to use is a really a winning strategy. So you can get up to speed in days and leverage off the shelf processes that exist and out there, and mainly your deployment will be migrating your information and updating your internal
Mhm.
SOPs, and we actually provide templates.
Mhm.
So if you want to use our document control process, it will come also with user
Mhm.
manual, online
Mhm.
training, and
So I think
template for
also
SOP.
I think many companies would think about. So you mentioned migration. So I think, especially when companies have a lot on paper or a lot of different digitalized solution for each part. So one system for deviations, one a system for change control. Uh, how easy it is to migrate? Are there ways to connect to third party applications and
Definitely.
draw the information?
Definitely. I mean, today's and first, as a vendor, we offer full web services that allow every application in the world to be fully integrated with dot compliance. With no small letters and no caveats, you can just integrate everything to dot compliance. And we can also work with the client IT department and system integrators to use those web services to integrate everything. It could be also, applications. So, for instance, we have a built-in infrastructure for Internet of Things. So, if you have a medical device that is sending information or medical machinery that sends information back to you as a vendor, you can integrate that information and then infuse this information into your quality management processes.
Mhm.
So yes, it's available. And now back to your previous question about whether small what with the
Mhm.
same solution we address different clients based on their
Mhm.
preferences. So smaller companies and mid-sized companies will go and use our off-the-shelf product. Where enterprise solutions requires a lot of tailoring, but still, even when you tailor a solution to a client need, you need to build the layers that will allow you to continue upgrading that solution and continue maintaining that solution. And we deliver at least 3 versions per year. That if there's a new mobile phone out there in the market that needs to be a new version of iPhone that needs to be supported, then 3 years, 3 times a year, we issue new releases. And that's really heavy lifting unless you build the platform and the architecture in a smart way. And this is where probably if you had a podcast or on enterprise applications and focusing on IT people,
Mm.
we could probably have a whole different
For
discussion
sure.
about technology, and that's another,
Yeah.
another passion of
And
mine.
probably I could talk APIs, and but
And
in a different sense than one means in pharma.
yeah, and microservices,
Mm.
and how you have a federated processes versus centralized, and if you get blockchain and Internet of Things, and then analytics and
Yeah.
artificial intelligence, and all of that exists, but business people and quality people don't care about the technology buzzword. They care about the things that it will do to their processes,
Mhm.
to
About the
their ability
result.
to do,
Mm.
and you really don't care about, it's like electricity. If it works, nobody thinks about electricity. It just work. You don't think about whether it was manufactured in a nuclear plant, or that was photoelectric cells that generated that. You just have
Yeah.
electricity, and
That's
as long as
one.
it works, you don't care.
That's one what one says about the IT department. As long as as long as everything works, you don't even know they exist.
Yeah. And there are people, and you need to also,
At, at least when
they
you
have a lot of
think about
contribution within the
internet connection.
organization. But, and I think,
Mm.
innovative IT people that understand not just the technology, that understand also, the processes and the industry are
Mm.
a tremendous asset to any
Yeah.
organization. And we first employ people with that background, but second, we also work with clients that come with that background, and this makes really powerful deployments of solution like
Yeah, it
ours. To
makes
have
everything easier.
somebody on the other
Mm.
side that truly understands, and can make judgment call, understanding not only what they want to do, but also what would be the long term implications of that.
Yeah. So I
And you
think
need to
they
be
also need to know
responsible.
the internal processes, so they can also explain to the other departments that are not that tech savvy what it means, and translate. Let's say.
Yeah, and you have to speak in a very simple
Yeah.
terms. It's dot compliance.
Mm.
Initially, the initial slogan for dot was simply get to the point, but it's what we're trying to do is to simplify. It
Mm.
really shouldn't be too complicated from the user experience perspective as much as we can. And again, it's a path, it's a road, and we are going towards that way. And I'm not pretending to say that us, like other QMS vendors, we haven't solved all of the issues. It's still sometimes frightening, complex processes. That's life, and mainly because of the regulation, actually, because you need to follow all of the
Mm, yeah.
requirements.
Yeah. Exactly.
But we need to and this is really the thing that it should be simple. If it's like buying something from Amazon, or doing an online, going to your bank and check your bank account status, and maybe make a slight change in your stock exchange portfolio. So it's
Yeah.
really something that people are get to use to do themselves, as long as it's simple enough and consistent and stable. And this is
Mhm.
what we are trying to provide.
Yeah, so I think simplicity is key. So you don't want somebody, so it takes months to learn the system.
No, it should be simple,
Yeah.
and it should follow if you're coming from the industry, you would expect things to behave in a certain way. And this is a very, delicate issue. You have to understand the psychology of the user, how they expect the system to behave, how things should be connected, and what information should I present on every step.
Hmm.
And we are working really hard to deploy those processes and those logics, and
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do here in dot compliance.
That's great. So, let's say a company has decided on a supplier. So, what should they consider, and technics could consider from their side? What would be the steps? And uh, probably there is a lot to do. So, what are the steps that the company should take?
So I think and I think I'll try to focus on from initiation, because when you go to such a journey, you need to be prepared.
Yeah.
So first, the organization needs to have a reasonable set of expectations, what they would like to achieve, when they won't like to achieve it, and then with those expectations, build the right team to be successful. So if you are planning, let's say that you're planning for a medium size, let's say 500 employees company, a medium sized company, or even a smaller company, um, you would need to have a team. The team should include people that leads the project from a quality perspective. So to have your subject matter experts and your executive sponsor, a person that can understand the issues and make decisions and change processes. Because when you do the change management, you need to reach decisions. And you have to have that person in that team, a person that can make decisions
Mm.
about processes, that
Yeah.
really owns the process.
So the QA, someone executive from the QA or someone external.
Well, I mean, we've seen three types of executive sponsors. It could be
Mhm.
either the head person in QA, whether they are vice president or director level, depending on the size of the company. It could be the COO, somebody that deals with operations and responsible also for manufacturing.
Mhm.
So we see that a lot, manufacturing operations. Or it could be even an executive sponsor like the CEO.
Mhm.
And the most interesting journeys that we had is, when you have a fellow CEO on the other side, and you share vision about what they would like to achieve, and they also look at the commercial aspect as well of the change management and their internal organization. So you have to have the right team to be successful, and then
Mhm.
you have to define the scope.
Yeah.
And
So
the
let's
scope
say,
could
so
be
I'll stop you for a second. So we have the QA, what and the executive, the decision makers, who is also important that he sits on the table.
IT. IT is important as well, depending on the size of the organization. So for smaller companies, we identified that the lack of IT resources is sometimes crucial. So our system is designed, in essence, for a smaller organization to be run fully by QA or by the business users. That's one obstacle. But if, let's say, a medium-sized company should have a very strong IT skills, people that comes with business analysis background, that understands, all of the other elements of this cube, the ERP, the CRM, the logistics, the authentication, the identity management, security, all of those aspects all together. So to have that technology partner within that team, that's really important. And once we have this team, now we need to build a realistic transition plan where we are right now and where we want to be. And we need to identify the shortest and least resistant path between those 2 points. And this is where you have to understand your internal organization culture. What would be easy? What would be hard? Who are the people that you need to convince, and win the hearts and the minds of those people towards that change. And again, quality is not, it's not a system, it's a culture, and you have to address it as a change management in the full business meaning of change management. It's not just technology, it's far more behind that. And it's really getting interesting and productive when organization adopt this approach. That's really amazing to see. And now we have the team, and we understand, we set our goals together, and we did some sanity check to see that those goals are realistic.
And usually, from your experience, what percentage of time do companies achieve it in their go in their time limit that they set for themselves for their project?
So it's really, really, really changes based on the size of the organization and how specific the processes that they are dealing with. What are the specifics of those processes. But I would say typically a phase of deployment, I'm going to give you my secret rule of three. So you take three major processes and try to deploy that in 3 months. Okay, just and it's but you can do much more than that if you're willing to adapt or ready to use processes, or you do less if you want to go deep.
Mhm.
So it really depends. But you should a typical organization, a mid-sized organization who is willing to adapt best practices can think about a roadmap of a year to get 90% of their processes on digital.
Mhm.
So that's in a year time, you can computerize most of your processes for a standard pharmaceutical manufacturing organization. If it's in discovery stages or R&D stages, then there's different aspect. And I think the complexity there goes to your clinical trials, which is slightly different a situation. But for a manufacturing organization, a year time could be a reasonable for a small, medium organization where all of the prerequisites of management buying and the right team is there. That's really achievable.
Mhm. Okay, so we have our team. We checked our timeline. We got everybody to the table. Is there anything else to consider for a smooth operation?
Well, timing. Timing is really important. You have to look at your timing as an organization. For instance, if you have, let's say that you have an FDA audit
Mhm.
or EMEA audit next quarter, maybe you need to think about it twice.
Mhm.
If you have it in 6 months from now, maybe you should build a plan that would make you compliant and
Mhm.
of course, I'm talking about major audit, not or new submissions or go to market. So you need to plan ahead and look at your business schedule. If there's like specific activities that are critical, you need to staff your team in a more give them more support throughout the deployment, maybe backfill or adding additional people that will allow the quality
Mhm.
team to leave some portion of their day-to-day work and focus on the project. So there's a lot of things about timing and scheduling, but then again there is the unexpected. So if you take for instance the COVID-19 crisis, what we've seen is that it was disruptive for many
Mhm.
companies. So, you know, some companies, they put they it slowed down the deployment. With other companies, they understood that there's no other option than to go digital. So that was again, some external events. Some of them are controlled. Some of them are, behind our control. So it's or so it's really about so the last but not least is some luck. Luck is always good in any project. I'm a little bit superstitious in that. So to have the right people, set the right goals, have the right methodology, select a realistic, the path with in a risk-based approach, state of mind, find the the path with least resistance and maximum benefits, and then execute and be persistent and communicate. Let people what they are gaining from this change, and let them understand what is the importance or the importance of this project or this QMS deployment to the well-being of the organization altogether and to the future success of their company.
So before we say goodbye, is there any way that people can contact your company if they need some consulting or they have some questions?
Yeah, so there's if it's a general information, so you can just email info@bcs.com and probably send you a slide that you can pop up right now with
Mhm.
that address. And if there's any personal question, you can more than welcome to contact me directly in LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to get back to you guys.
Yeah, and I'll share your contact information also on my website and on LinkedIn. So again, Doron, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Qualitalks podcast. If you did, consider subscribing so you don't miss a new episode. Stay compliant and see you in the next one.